Hello everybody, I am Joel Friesen. We are Silver Arrow Cars, and I'm standing here with our beautiful 1979, my birth year in fact, 1979 Ferrari 512 BB, and we are surrounded by an extra 36 cylinders of V12 Ferraris, an 812 behind us, a 599, and a 550 in the back there. This car is an extremely interesting and extremely collectible 1975 Ferrari 512 BB. Of course, the predecessor to the BBI, the later fuel-injected version, but also the replacement for the 365 GT4 BB. BB standing for Berlinetta Boxer. It is Berlinetta, the coupe, hardtop coupe Ferrari, but also Boxer engine. So this is a 12-cylinder Ferrari, but unlike a 550 or a 599 or the 812 behind me, these cars were the flat or Boxer style engine derived from the racing program of Ferrari, and this was just the second version of a mid-engine 12-cylinder Ferrari. So pretty substantial in the lineage of Ferrari and 12-cylinder Ferraris. This one specifically is a very interesting car with loads and loads of history and original documentation going right back to the day the car was born and delivered. It was ordered brand new by Donald J. Weber, the late Donald J. Weber, esteemed Ferrari collector residing in California. And all of that correspondence inside these documents is extremely interesting and documents his communication with Ferrari, going back and forth, talking about the ordering of the car, how it's going to be shipped, payment processes, Western Union telegrams, which is very interesting to see, and so on, talking about the car, and then the federalization of it. So the federalization of the car did happen in California. This car did reside and live in California for many, many years. In fact, until his passing, Donald J. Weber owned this car, so from 1979 up until most recently. The car, up until our client's acquisition of it, it was a tuner car. He purchased it in 2023 and has added some new cars to his library, and so this is one of the cars that he's passing on to the next collector. As I alluded to or mentioned, the originality and the documentation of the car is very impressive. Certificate of origin and all the details about the car specifically are inside this binder, all cataloged, as well as some choice modifications that Mr. Weber did in the 80s. That's also documented with photographs inside here. Also, you will find some servicing. So you will find 2013, 2014 detailed service receipt for an engine out belt service, and then another one in 2022. So the car is most recently serviced, having its belts and major service completed, engine out service. We have done a fresh service in preparation for sale, fresh oil change, just to be diligent. The car also has and retains its original manuals, owner's manual and service manual and guidebook in its original pouch that is in very good condition. Inside there you will find that original service book with the classic first couple pages showing where the car was sold, who it was sold to, and the dates. That is all intact, and inside this book we'll have that in our listing so you can see that for yourself. Some of those modifications that I mentioned that Mr. Weber performed during his decades of ownership was first back in the 80s. And some of those modifications to the train die, you'd be able to pick up on them and some not. One of which would be the lower portion of the car is been painted to match the top surface of the car. When these cars were delivered new, usually they were a satin black from that center strip all the way around. The lower portion was satin black. You'll see that a lot. This one has the very clean looks of that Rosso Chiara paint. This is not Rosso Corsa, this is Rosso Chiara, but that paint is matched all the way along the car. Previously, when the car was acquired by our client, The belt line did not have a black strip in and around it, so that was added. Most of the vertical facing or the upward facing panels, so roof, hood, and then some of the rear of the car does show paint checking. So in paint metering the car, it does seem as though it's been repainted at some point, and perhaps that is where we're getting the checking in the paint coming from. But that is something to note, and we'll right now show you some shots of what to expect and see. It certainly isn't something that you pick up on until you get close and then have the right light above you. And then you'll see in the rear of the car, some of the venting in the back of the car, these were actually should have been painted and likely were from the factory, painted in the same as the body color, and the black portions would have been the boxing for the air intake system. Those would have been black, as well as the panels that they ride along and the rear vent. So it's almost been a reverse from the original paint scheme or from the original factory delivery. I think I would assume that when Mr. Donald J. Weber owned the car, that he wanted to give it some of his own personal flavor and taste, and took it to a shop. Those receipts are also in the binder. Took it to a shop in his local area and had those modifications completed. That wasn't it though. He also wanted to make some changes in the interior. So red piping was added to the seats. The center console was changed to a two-tone red center console, so it's red and black. He also changed the coloring on some of the emblems. You'll see that on the interior. And then exhaust was added to the car, and it looks as though he worked with Borla, and a Borla exhaust was installed on the car. Not typical for a Ferrari, but interesting, and gives it an extremely extremely deep grunt and a beautiful sound at RPM. It looks as though that those headers feed into 3 individual mufflers mounted behind and in the shields of the rear of the car. You'll see that from some of our photos as well. In the engine bay, velocity stacks were added to those Webers. You'll see that, whereas a typical BB would show air filter boxes sitting on top of the carburetors, 2 of them, one on either side. Those usually reside below these upper boxes or intake boxes sitting on top of the car. Overall presentation of the car is extremely good. You obviously can see from the camera high gloss on the paint. The paint shows very smoothly across the surfaces. Gaps on doors and panels and fitment is all very good. It does look as though we've got factory glass all the way around the car, all of which are in very good condition. You'll see all of the logos on all the glass matching all the way around the car. The leather on the interior is all, as we believe it to be, the factory original leather. It does obviously have some age to it, but the patina to the leather is actually quite good. Coloring on the seats is good, as well as the dash. This era of car, you didn't really experience the same things you do in some of the 90s and early 2000s car. There's no signs of shrinkage in leather across anywhere. The dash, it all sits very nicely. All the stitching looks good. The interior is in great shape that way. There is notes that red carpet was added. It does look as though the original factory order did state that there was red carpets, so I imagine the addition of carpet, red carpet on some of those invoices might be for the floor mats that you see in the car. A prototypo steering wheel at some point was added. You will see that in the receipts as well. Drives great and it feels good in the hands. It's a little tricky for steering at low speeds, but once you're at speed, it feels fantastic. Seating position on these cars is great, which brings me to the next mention. It looks as though there is a receipt for Mr. Weber had the seats lowered slightly in the car. Seating position for me, I'm 6 feet, is actually quite good. It felt fantastic on the highway, and you'll see that in our driving video as I discuss the characteristics of the car. I'll be putting the car through its paces going through all of the gears and getting it up to speed and temperature. Wheels have been refinished, of course, typical for the 512. These are a Rudge style center knockoff wheel with an aluminum 5-spoke design. The tires were replaced in 2022, so the tires are nice and fresh and soft. Wheel condition all the way around the car is excellent. I'm going to talk about the interior a little bit now. As I said in the brief walk around at the beginning there, the interior is in extremely good shape. Some modifications were performed by Mr. Weber during his decades-long ownership, of which was adding the piping. So we're showing that now. Piping is in really good shape. The seats are in quite good shape. To me, that is the factory leather seats, Daytona style seats. For the age of the seats, they're in quite good condition. The leather is well preserved. It's not dry and cracking. It's fairly soft and supple. I think this is above average condition for leather seats of this vintage. Same goes for the leather on the dash, except actually I would say better. The leather along the dash, the vents in the dash, all present very, very well. This is, of course, before issues of shrinking leather. Leather in the door panels, all very, very nicely. Some of the louvering in the doors, they are all in great shape. Door sills, same thing. The leather in the door sills, all very, very tidy. And for a 1979 car, 45 years old, very, very good condition throughout. This was a factory AC car. You'll see the AC controls right in the center, which is impressive and very, very cool, especially if this car is headed back to California. It was optioned with a factory FM radio. You see that in the dash there, and you can see the vents right underneath, all of which in great shape. Same with those dash mounted vents. This car, for its age and compared to the other cars coming out of Italy and Europe, is quite a spacious interior, I will say. In and out of the car is not overly difficult. Seating position is good. Room for feet in and around the pedals is good. It was a very pleasant surprise taking this out on the highway and going through all the gears. As I might have mentioned earlier, drives really, really nicely. It pulls very strong, sounds fantastic. The exhaust is fantastic. Walking around the exterior of the car, coming up to the front. So these panels here in the front, these amber panels, these are your turn indicators. There's bulbs in behind here, and then right above it, you'll see where the folding headlights are. These panels usually were a different color, as well as this vent in the center. I imagine those are also pieces that Mr. Weber had painted. You'll see the prancing horse at the front that has been painted as well to go black. We do have a factory style aluminum horse, but paint condition across the front and both the chin spoiler are very, very good. Very good, great presentation. The emblem in the front is in good condition, is not heavily faded or aged as you would expect for its age. We don't see a lot of chipping in and around the front of the nose. Very, very good condition that way. Same with the amber panels for your lights. In and around the side of the car, very much the same thing. Down the lower part of the front of the bumper, great condition. In and around the fender arches, small little bit of chipping right on the front edge of the door. As I mentioned, the tires are new and the wheel condition is extremely good. Trim around the windshield is in great shape, still quite black, not heavily faded. That single windshield wiper arm with a double blade, or triple blade I should say, is in good shape. Same goes for the mirror, rubber trim around the windshield. We talked about the glass. Down the side of the car is in very, very good shape. Nothing really to mention along the side of the car. The paint looks great. There's minimal checking in and around this area, but gloss and finish is very good. A couple little chips that have been touched up along the back edge of the door. And then the same would go for the rear of the engine cover. Small chip here, but again, very, very smooth paint. I'm not seeing a lot of texture or orange peel in it. Rear wheels, all the wheels are in the same condition. They're excellent. And then going around the car, same thing in the back. Your lenses are in very good condition. They are not looking heavily aged. Your quad exhaust tips in the stainless steel, they look great. Everything along the rear of the engine cover is in great condition as far as paint. I already spoke about some of that checking you'll see in the paint. That's, I'm speaking beyond that now and just talking about if there's any chipping or otherwise. Same with the rear of the car. Some checking to see in the rear fender, but the rest of it looking good. I will pop this engine cover and the front shortly here to show you inside those two compartments. And then the same goes for down along the passenger side, through the door, through the rear quarter. All look to be in very, very good condition. So we've got both the front and the rear lifted so you can see into the engine bay. You see here some custom painting. It looks like paying homage to the exhaust being installed. And then you can see some names, Bill's Body Shop and Richard's Interiors, obviously the people that worked on the car. Engine compartment is good. At some point, the engine case was painted in a gray, aluminum gray color. That paint is flaking off in the odd area, so you'll see that on camera. The crinkle red paint on the engine covers on both the left and the right, or the cam covers, they are in quite good condition. I would say most of the engine compartment is in kind of more survivor condition. Of course, the engine has been out twice and it's heavily serviced and runs extremely well. For 45 years old, it is looking quite good in the interior, but as I said, noting some of those painted surfaces and that paint is flaking off. The velocity stacks certainly add to the appeal of the engine compartment on the car. Up front, underneath the hood, is where we find the compartment where normally the space saver spare would be. It is not present currently, but the carpet cover is there, the battery cover is in there. And when you scan through and look at some of the metal surfaces in and around underneath the hood, the condition is very, very good, very indicative of a car that was stored or kept in California and obviously inside a facility or a collection. A lot of the CAD plating on some of the screws and bolts look very good in and around the headlights and the running lights. The headlights work exactly the way they are supposed to. Carpet and everything is in great condition. The inner fenders and all the black paneling. So there you have it. There is the overview of our beautiful 79 Ferrari 512 BB. So one of 929 cars. No cars were produced for the North American or Canadian market. All cars were for the European market. So this car was ordered new from Modena, from Ferrari by Donald J. Weber, the late Donald J. Weber, and then brought to the USA and then sent for federalization in California at ACI. They're the ones that federalize it, and all that documentation, the federalization of it, the approval of it, and some documentation going back and forth with the EPA saying that indeed it is passed. That is all still present with the car and comes with the car, as well as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the communication with Ferrari for Mr. Weber ordering the car, them going back and forth about the change in price and wanting a credit to his name for future purposes. It does have copies of his registrations over the years and registering the car in California. It has receipts for 2 engine out services. The most recent was in 2022, and a comprehensive engine out service was performed. We've performed a service in preparation for sale. Just a very nice car. It has a couple opportunities, one which being some of the paint, but also I believe for the car, both having some custom work done to it by that original owner of, well, at least 4 decades. There is an extremely cool and 70s, 80s appeal to this car. Still pays all respect to the original spec of the car. You know, it still is its original colors. Just some small and choice modifications done over the years by that owner that bought it brand new and has owned it for years and years and years. We are selling this car out of Blaine, Washington. The car is sitting currently on a Washington state title. It is sitting in our warehouse. If you have any questions about the car, please do give us a call. If you haven't watched our driving video, I'll be in the car and we'll be putting it through its paces and showing you how it performs on the road, also how it looks on the road, because as we all know, the aesthetic appeal of some of our cars is one of the biggest appeal. If there's anything else we can help with, please do reach out. I am Joel. We are Silver Arrow Cars. You can find us on the internet, Instagram, wherever it is online you are, or pick up the phone and just give us a call. Good luck in your bidding, and we hope to talk to you soon.